welcome back to Sarah's Joyful Journey. I'm Sarah Joy. Today's video is episode 31 of Tea Tuesday. So let's go make our tea and then we'll sit down and spill the tea on everything that's gone on the past week. All right, so for our tea today, we're going to use toasted coconut almond bark because it sounds delicious. And then I'm going to use my new Country Roses Royal Albert Tea for One. So let's get our tea started. Welcome back. This is Piper. She doesn't normally want my attention like this, so I'm just gonna give her some attention for just a minute because she's my old girl. She'll be 7 in December, and she's a Great Pyrenees, so that's pretty old for a girl like her, huh? Yeah. All right, go lay down. Not walk through me. Go lay down. Go lay down. Ghost isn't as bad because he does get really wild and in my face. Normally Piper's pretty good about it. All right, so our tea today is that steaming hot pot and a half, the mini tea for one of toasted coconut almond bark. I have put my keto brains in there, so let's take a sip. It's super hot too. I love this one. It's a black tea and it does have that hint of like a toasted coconut, which I enjoy. So when you put the keto brains in it, it also elevates that coconut flavor just a hair more, and I really enjoy that part. So what has been going on this week? I'm moving right along with my 75 soft challenge. Things are going well-ish. This week has definitely been a challenge. There has been 2 days where I have not been able to exercise. Today seems like it's threatening to be a third. I'm trying really hard to not let that happen. One of those days was the day that we had the hurricane. It just didn't happen. And that's okay. And then yesterday, which would have been day 12, which you'll see before this one will come out, I didn't get any done either because I've had massive headaches for a while now, and I thought that I'd figured them out, and I think I did figure them out, but there's also so much stress going in my life, so my blood pressure's up, so I think that's also triggering the headaches. So yesterday I went to urgent care, got a note, have all kinds of problems going on with my insurance. Let me grab some water. What happened is I have TRICARE and I had Disney insurance. So Disney insurance became my primary insurance and TRICARE became my secondary. I haven't used my TRICARE in 2 years. Still had it the whole time. Well, when I got the new job, I elected not to sign up for insurance. I didn't see the benefits of having dual insurance, mostly because you're paying for 2 insurances. And while the insurance at work was affordable, it still wasn't as affordable as the insurance I already have. So I weighed all the benefits. Like Disney had certain benefits, like their copays were $10 and things like that. On TRICARE it's $30. And then if I would have signed up at work, it also would have been $30. So I was looking at paying the same copays and I'm like, what's the point then? It's one thing to pay for insurance and have a lower copay. And Disney was quite convenient. So in some aspects, I do miss that regards, but it's okay because like I said, I have insurance. We're gonna get it figured out. We found out when we went to fill the prescription yesterday and they wouldn't do it because they said that I had another insurance as of the end of August. And I was like, no, I had 2 insurances and I stepped down an insurance. So excuse me, I have not had enough water today. And I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. So not enough sleep either. But anyway, Matt's gonna call the insurance, get it all figured out, figure out who my primary care is, or I'll pick a new one if I need to. It's probably the same one I had a few years ago, but I don't remember. for sure. So we got to get that figured out so I can get the blood pressure medicine to help my blood pressure go down. It's not super dangerously high, but it is definitely high enough that it's affecting me. And the stress that I have in my life is playing a major role on the impact of my blood pressure. Because my blood pressure was great, I have not had any medications for blood pressure for almost a year and a half. It's been climbing up slowly. I had an issue right after surgery. It went down after surgery because stress went down. Well, stress has been going back up. There's a lot going on with my mom's health, my sister's health, and my brother's health. And I tend to be the strong one in the family. So I'm trying to like power through and not break down, which is also not great if you are anything familiar with psychology, because that means I'm avoiding it and stuffing it, and I'm trying really hard not to do that. But the stress is definitely manifesting in the form of raised blood pressure and a headache. It's kind of sort of a tension headache too, so it's like a twofold headache, because it's at the back of my head but also at the front of my head. But Matt's going to pick up the medication tomorrow. I have told him that we found a coupon because our daughter's friend is a pharmacist at a different Walgreens, and he says they have coupons all the time. So we found a coupon for the medication, and we can get it down. They want $100 out of our pocket, not going through insurance. And then I think, if I remember correctly, it'll be like $8 with insurance. But with the coupon, it's $23. And while that's not the $100 it was, it's still a little bit more expensive, but I'd rather just at this point pay for it out of pocket. So he's going to get that taken care of tomorrow for me no matter what. And he's going to try and pick that prescription up before he calls the insurance company. Because they were out of the medication too. He went up there twice because we went up there and then I figured I just needed the medication, so we'll just figure out how to pay for it out of pocket. I knew that blood pressure medications aren't ridiculously expensive, but apparently they still are, because I find $100 for 30-day supplies is actually kind of pricey, but it is what it is. So that's getting taken care of. And then this week we had Hurricane Milton. I worked a grand total of 1.5 days this past week. I worked Monday and I worked half of Tuesday. Tuesday, our county went under a voluntary evacuation order, and I came home. One, because the stress of a Cat 5 hurricane, even though it wasn't going to hit us at a 5, it was still a Cat 5 hurricane barreling right for Florida. And that increases stress. Even though I was as prepared as I could be, all that kind of things, it was out of my control. I did what I needed to do, and I was calm to a degree, but it's still very stressful, especially when you've been through major hurricanes and they aren't pleasant. So I do have mild trauma surrounding hurricanes, mostly when it comes to being without power for days. And that's what was tripping me up the most about this hurricane. Was I knew where we were at. We weren't really in danger of flooding. We weren't, yes, we could have some damage to the building, but we don't own it. We live in an apartment, so we don't have to worry about that. They would have to have fixed everything and that kind of stuff. So our biggest threat was losing power, and I was absolutely 100% positive we were going to lose power for days. We didn't lose any power, so we were very, very fortunate on that regards. There are still lots and lots of people around here without power. There's people as far as Daytona. I was chatting with somebody at the gas station the other day, and they mentioned that they're not getting their power back till the 21st, and they live on the western side of the state. So the office was open through Wednesday. I don't know, it might have closed early on Wednesday, but I don't work on Wednesday, so I don't know for sure. It was closed Friday, no power. Thursday, no power. Friday, no power. They did get power back late Friday night, and I was supposed to go to work yesterday. Yesterday, on Saturday, was the day that I had my headache, so I ended up calling out. I have a doctor's note. It's going to get excused. It's fine. But that was a lot, just to go through that. Then I talked with my mom. She's got some things going on with her heart. My sister is recovering from her cancer, but still her life is drastically shortened. And then we got some very distressing news about my brother. I'm not going to go into great detail. One, because I don't have a lot of detail. And two, it's a very uncomfortable subject for me at this moment to talk about. I get very, very, very emotional. For those of you that don't know my background, my 4-year degree was in psychology. I worked towards a PhD in psychology as well. Did not finish that, but I had about a year's worth of classes into my PhD, just about. So I've had a lot of psychology classes. I am also autistic, and psychology and abnormal psychology, it's not the best word, I get it, but that's what they call it. They call it abnormal psychology, has been fascinating to me since I was a teenager. And I still love it. So I will research, I'll read, I'll see something somewhere and it will inspire me to research psychology wise. So I have a lot of psych knowledge crammed up in my brain because of school, and it's been a hyper focus, and it's one of my special subjects as an autistic person. So it's very, very distressful to also know what my brother is going through. He got himself in trouble. He's been homeless for a long time. And he has recently been deemed no longer mentally competent. That's the nicest way to say it. It's also the most appropriate way to say it. We know there are some major mental health factors that play into that. We also know that partaking in illicit drugs, which he is now clean of, which is a good thing, also played a role in his deterioration of his mental health. But because I have so much knowledge and I've studied so much and I've read a lot of history on psych, on how they treat psych patients in mental wards and things like that, it is much better. I'm not going to say that it's perfect because there is nothing perfect. But I also know that if you throw the prison system in on top of that they're trying in the state that he lives in to do better, he is going to have to serve sentence in a mental health hospital. We don't know what's going to happen. So it's bittersweet. It's one of those things where we are all very happy that he's getting the treatment that we've all known for well over a decade that he's needed, but he's not. He's refused. Everybody else is mentally ill, not him. He's perfect, which is common. It's a common attitude, and that's not a dig, that's not a slam. That's just a fact at this point. But it is still a big struggle for me because I also really feel like, even though it's a positive thing, he's off the streets, he's off the drugs, he is getting some sort of treatment. I don't know that he's getting the best treatment available to him in his current situation, and it breaks my heart because my brother is essentially gone. The brother that I grew up no longer exists, and that's a tough pill to swallow. I can't say any way differently. It's just a very tough pill to swallow. So with mom's health, my sister's health, things going on with brother, my surgery and injury, changing jobs, I've had so much stress that it's not surprising that I'm in the situation I currently am. I am working to deal with my stress as best as I can. That's where eating properly is amazing. Movement is amazing. But I also know when my headache gets so bad that it's throbbing so bad that I'm going to throw up, I don't really want to exercise. But I am still working on it. That's part of the reason why I'm focusing so much on walking right now. Walking is great for stress reducing, and it moves my body. And I want to get into strength training, but it's its own type of stress. And it's not a bad stress, because there is positive stress and negative stress. So not all stress is bad. There are positive stressors. Lifting weights would be one of those cases. But right now, I'm not in a position to do that. But hopefully soon I'll be able to do that. So I'm, like I said, I'm focusing on eating right. I'm focusing on relaxing and resting and taking it as easy as I can. Trying to get as much sleep as I can, trying to stay hydrated, and all those things when you're super stressed out can get very difficult to do. So takes a lot of effort and a lot of work, but it's not a bad thing. But definitely my body is telling me that I need to continue working on it, and then I can feel much better than I do right now. Okay, now, all done with sad news. Not that it was super sad, but still, saddish news. And this is Sarah's joyful journey. And I am joyful in my journey, even when I am sad, because everything has a purpose. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to show you this. I meant to show you this last week. I like to look on Facebook Marketplace sometimes. It can be a form of de-stressing for me, especially when I'm looking for stuff that I can add to my collection. Oftentimes, I don't find stuff. Sometimes I find stuff that is accurately priced, which is fantastic. I don't have a problem with that, because if it's on my list and is accurately priced, I'll pay for it. If it's overpriced, usually not so much. And I have seen some that I would like that I'm going, you're asking a little too much for that. But I just simply scroll on by and let it be. That's on there. I don't say anything to them. I just don't give them my money. So, but I have found some fantastic deals. Some deals that are so good I almost feel like I'm stealing them. But one of them was back in the spring. I got a huge Royal Albert Miranda Kerr Friendship Series, where I got like 8 cups and saucers. I got a 3-tier stand. I got a teapot or a tea set. So it was the teapot, the creamer, and all that kind of stuff. And I'd already had pieces in my collection, so it was wonderful to add to it. It was a fantastic find. I got, at that point, it was like $1,500, I think, worth of fine china for $80. Well, I kind of did it again. I have wanted this particular teapot. It's been on my list because it's absolutely gorgeous. It's been on my list for a long time. It's been on my dream list, but it's one of those that I never expected to own, because the teapot is worth about, depending on who you talk to and where you look, it's anywhere from $400 to $500. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. I felt like I was stealing it. And yes, I did confirm, just like I did last time, you want $25 for this, correct? Confirmed it. If they hold fast on that, I'm taking them at their word. I'm not going to tell them that they're way significantly undercharging, because you never know people's situation. They may know that they are way significantly undercharging. Around here, China, there's a lot of China. There's a lot of China. There's a lot of China that comes up for sale regularly. But sometimes it just sits and sits and sits, because I don't think there's as many people collecting China as they used to. Which is fine. I'll snag some deals. Let me refresh my tea real quick, because the caffeine in the tea is helping my headache. I haven't yet taken medication, but I did not drink any caffeine yesterday, which probably didn't help either. Anyway, I found this teapot. It was a lady who was moving out of the state and just needed to get rid of stuff. So that does explain part of the price. But there's my teapot. This is Old Country Roses chintz, and I think this is the green. This teapot is in perfect condition. I'm kind of afraid to use it, because the last time I had a vintage teapot, I cracked it, and that's how I ended up with some necklaces. I am going to soak it. I haven't soaked it yet. I don't see any evidence of any chipping or anything like that. And it's kind of dusty inside. But if you look in the bottom, there's like, it doesn't even look like it's used. And this is This was made in the 90s. I'll see if I can show this to you. So this is the Royal Albert. It's not showing really well. It's Royal Albert Old Country Roses chintz collection. My best guess is this is from the 1990s. This piece is particularly cool because right in the early 2000s, Royal Albert switched over to making their china. They were bought by Wedgwood. I don't know when they were bought by Wedgwood, but they switched their china over to being made in Indonesia. And it is different. It is definitely different. The part of this set is new. This is one that was made in Indonesia. Both are bone china. Both are considered English. Both are bone china. This one, of course, is not English. This one and this one, they just have a different feel to them. Of course, yes, I realize they are two different items. They're going to have a different feel anyway. But I have noticed that the stuff that's made in Indonesia is a little bit heavier of a feel. It's not quite as fine, not quite as delicate. That does not stop me from collecting the pieces I like. I have quite a few modern pieces. I probably have more modern pieces. Well, no, that's not true. It feels like I have more modern pieces than vintage pieces, but that's not true because I have my set of china, and that was also made in England. Still working on hunting down that teapot. That teapot is on my list, and I haven't bought it yet because that teapot, just the teapot alone, is like $500, and I haven't wanted to suck it up and spend that $500 yet. So I keep looking and hoping that I'll get a deal like this one. I haven't found it yet. So eventually I'm going to have to. I think that's next year's goal, is I'm going to definitely save up for that teapot, and then I'm just going to buy the teapot and the tea set, and that's going to set me probably back $800 just for a teapot and coffee, creamer and sugar bowl. But it matches my china, and I have service for 8. So I have all the teacups and saucers. I've got all the plates. I've got extra goodies, and the last thing I need is a teapot. So that is my priority. I also have one more dream teapot on my list, and we'll see if I find it. I'm trying to be picky about it. I've seen it come up, and it's one of those patterns where they reprinted it or they remade it. I guess you could say it was reprinted. And there's versions that were made in China. There's versions that are made in Indonesia, and there's versions that made in England. I'm being picky. I want the one made in England. I feel that is better quality. It is also going to be more expensive. It's also going to be more expensive. And since this is a dream piece and I may get it, I may not, I don't feel so bad about it. But in the next few weeks, Royal Albert had come out with some new mugs for their 100 Years collection, which I have that whole collection. Well, I had the whole collection. They've came out with four new ones, I think. So I will be ordering those soon because I need them to add to my collection. All right, so that is my newest beautiful teapot that I got a ridiculous deal for. And I really honestly never, ever, ever thought I would find this. And it's funny because I have some Old Country Roses because it's just a classic pattern. But what I've liked about Old Country Roses was I liked the variations. There's a rosy pink one too, and someone is selling a set, a teacup, a saucer, and a plate. And I'm awful tempted. I haven't committed to it yet, but I'm awful tempted. But yeah, it's beautiful. I might try to find the cream and sugar for this one. I probably won't. It's just really cool to even just have the teapot. But yeah, so like this is like New Country Roses. So I love this variation. They have it in white. I'd love to get it in white. I have Polka Rose, which is also kind of sort of a variation on New Country Roses. But when I went to buy china, I didn't want New Country Roses, even though you can find it so easy and so affordably. It wasn't a pattern that I wanted to have a service for 8 for. But it's interesting because my Moonlit Roses is Old Country Roses with Moonlight. So it's blue. It's the same pattern as Old Country Roses. Just a variation. And I love it. But I love roses, so that makes sense. All right. Enough talk on that. I did get a new plant yesterday. And if you will probably see it before it happens, but it's doing pretty good. Yeah, now that I've had it for like 24 hours. This is June. June is a Ficus too little, also known as a Ficus benjamina. It came with moss. I had enough soil to repot it. It's super cute. It does need a little bit of a trim, but I'm gonna wait a few weeks, if not longer, to give her a little trim. And it's a her based on the name. That's it. I know trees don't have ginger. But yeah, so that's June. And June goes along with Benny. And this is Benny. Benny was much taller and didn't have very many branches. So I cut Benny down to make him, 1, shorter, and 2, I wanted to encourage some other branching. And it's happening. What I'm finding though is these guys grow slow. Some of my other ficuses grow a little bit faster. Some of them grow slow. Like my Green Island ficus up here grows really slow, and I'm not even sure that one's going to recover. It's still living. It's going to take many, many years before it looks like a tree again because Ghost ate it. But it is still growing and it is still doing well. It just doesn't look very much like a tree right now, which is fine. It will eventually. That's the great thing about bonsai is it's a fun hobby. I love looking at my plants. I love taking care of my plants. I have 4 or 5 more coming. I'm learning not to kill them. I have more successful plants than I've killed, not counting the ones that Ghost killed. The ones that Ghost killed, those aren't on me. Those are on him. He is responsible for those. But I am learning, and it's a slow hobby, and there is nothing wrong with that. I enjoy just taking care of them, watching them grow, and learning about the process. So that's good. Into books, because I'm getting a little rambly, but man, is that caffeine helping with my headache. And I don't drink a lot of caffeine. I usually drink tea or a Celsius, or at most it's a Celsius and it's like tea or coffee. So it's like usually just 2 caffeinated beverages, or in this case, a cup and a half, a pretty big cup and a half. And I usually have a pretty big coffee, but it's still, keep it at 2. It's pretty minimal. Current reads. I have one. It's an audiobook that I've listened to 5 minutes of it because I haven't gone to work. So I'll be listening to it tomorrow when I go to work. But I have Priest by Sierra Simone. This one kept popping up on TikTok that it was very spicy. So I figured I'd give it a try. So I bought it, and then I realized that it was on Everand, which I'm changing my stance on Everand. For now, I'm gonna keep it, I think. There's still not as many books as I would like. Oh, I did forget my other book. Hang on, let me go get my other book. All right, so what I was saying before I paused and got my book is I'm giving Everand a better shot than 30 Days. Still doesn't have as many audiobooks as I would like, but I feel like I need to give it more of a try than just the 30 days. So I am going to give it 60 days and we'll see. So yeah, so I just started this one. So far, so good. It starts off with a bang. I'm probably only like 2 chapters into it, if I'm being honest. So that's how little time I've had to listen to books, but I've mostly been at home reading books. The other book that I'm currently reading, that I have been talking about every day for like the past 14 days, it is this book. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this book. It is a good book. It is not holding my focus, but I think I have an explanation for me why it's not holding my focus. So I'm going to share something that is pretty cool. It's pretty common. It can be very common with ADHD, autism, all that kind of stuff. I am a verbal thinker. So what that means is there's words in my brain. There's a constant loop of words in my brain. So when I have thoughts, it's like basically me talking to myself. I hear my voice in my head. But that also means I am a verbal reader. So when I'm reading, I'm not visualizing pictures in my head. My husband does. My oldest daughter does not. I don't know about the little one. I don't think she does because she can't stand reading. And that would explain it if she's not seeing pictures. But when I learned recently that most people, when they read a book, they see it like a movie, I was blown away, floored, because that is not me. That is not my experience. It's just a different experience. But that also means that I consume books differently. It doesn't mean that I enjoy them differently. But I do have to have like somewhat of a frame of mind. Yeah, but trying to like visualize characters is really hard. Really, really hard. Even with good descriptions, you're just like, oh, okay, he's got blonde hair. You say he's gorgeous. He's gorgeous. I have no idea what that looks like, but you can still understand, you know, if someone's 6'4", blonde hair, blue eyes, and gorgeous, you kind of understand what that looks like based on context, the fact that you're a human and you see people like that out on the street, you know? So culture shapes it. Knowledge of certain things shapes how you can perceive a story. And one thing I struggle with this one is it is a Mulan retelling. I don't have a lot of experience with Asian culture. I just don't. I have very minimal experience. I think that they have some amazing things, amazing teas, amazing pottery. Of course, they've got like bonsai and all that kind of stuff. So I do identify with some of it. But as far as it being like a favorite part in history, no, it's not something I have a lot of like knowledge or experience with. That's not wrong. Because, you know, it's just not. But when I read this, I keep expecting it to be more like the movie. It is not like the movie, and that's a fantastic thing. It just moves a little bit slower for me, and I have trouble visualizing the landscape. I have trouble visualizing what's really going on, the characters themselves, because it is definitely of a different culture that I don't have experience with. If I was reading about some other cultures as well, I would probably also still very much struggle just based on a lack of experience within that culture and that area. So I draw my understanding of things and how I see things from experiences. So this book right here, much easier for me to understand. Set in Chicago. Never been to Chicago, but I know what big cities are like, you know, and yeah, he's a vampire. I've read vampire books, so I have commonalities that I understand, but as far as seeing pictures, no, doesn't happen. So I'm struggling with this book, determined to get it done. It is going to be one of those books where it is the first book in a series. I think there's going to be 2. I don't know if I will get to the second one. The second one's not, it doesn't even have a planned release date at this point, so there's some time. But I'm struggling. And I think it's because I can't really visualize the world. And I have a problem with that. And I have several books now on my shelf that I'm thinking I might have trouble with based on not being able to visualize the world. It's definitely a downside to my brain, not being able to visualize things the way that others do. But it's okay. It is what it is. All right, finished books. So I was listening to Neon Gods by Katee Robert. I loved this book. It was really good. There was good banter. It was a fast book. Even though it was like a 12-hour book, it was still a fast book. It still went really quickly. I mean, it did definitely take 12 hours, but it was a fast book. It was a quick book. I'm getting through this a lot faster than I got through this, or I'm getting through this one. So yeah, that was really enjoyable. I do want to read, I think there's 9 in the series. I don't know if I'm going to read the whole series, because they're kind of sort of standalone-ish books, which is fine. So I plan on reading a couple more. My daughter said I should read the second one. She says I will probably like that, so I'll probably get that one. I think that one's called Electric Idols. but I haven't gotten it yet. And then I picked up this book a few months ago, and because the back seemed interesting and I enjoyed the read. It is not spicy. And I've come to the realization that I read spice, but not necessarily smut. I have learned there is a difference. I read spicy. It's not, I haven't really, I just do spice. All right, so this one is not spicy entirely. I'd put it as a 1 in the spice level. There's one scene where it was just so awkward and so rushed that I almost wish it would have been like a fade to black scene or a closed door scene. Like you knew what was happening, but nothing was stated, instead of just like a really rushed stated scene. And what I am finding with fantasy is that every person who writes fantasy has a unique-ish spin on certain things. But the more fantasy I read, the more that I see commonalities between all of them. Which is not a bad thing. It's just different. Because fantasy is still a new genre for me. Piper's over here. She's looking at me and getting scratches. I'm sure you can hear her breathing. But anyway, it was good. I don't know if I'm going to go on with the second and third books. I have them, but I'm not going to necessarily. I just don't know. The second book is about dragon shifters, and I don't know if that's going to be my thing. I like fairies because fairies are human-ish, and I guess dragon shifters would be human-ish too. I've just never read anything like that, and I just wasn't in the mood. Can you go lay down, baby girl? And then the third book is about wolves, and I really haven't read about werewolves either. But we'll see. I might get to them, but right now they're not priority because they're standalone, so I don't feel like I have to read them in any order. Now this one, I just finished this morning. Piper, go lay down, baby girl. Down. No, lay down. You lay down. Come on. Good girl. I'll take you out in a minute. She wants to go outside. I finished this one this morning. This is actually book 2 in a series. It's more of a continuation series, but they're standalones. The characters from the first book are also in the second book, and then some of the characters from this book are in the first book, which is cool. It's kind of like a spinoff, I guess you could say that. So even though it was the second book, I didn't have any trouble understanding it, and I read it in like 2 days. And it's, according to the back, it says, nothing sucks more than fake dating a vampire in this paranormal romantic comedy. It's a perfect example and summation of this book. There is another book. It is called My Roommate is a Vampire, and it's the first book in the series. And after reading this one, I want to go get that one at some point because I think it would be funny and cute. And this was a quick read, really, really fun. I was reading and just enjoying reading so much last night that I was up till 2 a.m. reading this book. And then I went, it's 2 a.m. I need to go to bed. And then I got up this morning and I finished it. So that is pretty much all that has gone on in the book world. No knitting this week. They're just, with the stress and everything else going on, there just wasn't time for it. So hopefully next week, I'm hoping to get a little done this afternoon. We'll see if I can get my headache to totally disappear and I can get my exercise in. I may do some knitting this evening, but this girl is insistent that I take her outside. So I should go ahead and say bye for now. And I hope you have a wonderful and lovely week, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.